value from success, growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as VRTrader.com. He was the #1 U.S. stock market timer in the January 2020 edition of Timer Digest. He's speaking to us from Arizona. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Great being here. Thanks, Jim.
Mark, do you still have that special offer for our listeners?
We do. We're doing that till the end of the year. It's at VR, that's Victor Roberts, stands for volume reversal, by the way, my technical indicator, VRTrader.com. When you get to any of the newsletters that you like to sign up for, there's a section in the order form for a promo code, and the promo code is for 50% off, by the way, 2020 half off. It's in lowercase, by the way. I think I noticed that it works better in lowercase than uppercase, so it's 2020 HALFOFF, just as it sounds, 2020 half off, and you get 50% off for whatever time frame you sign up for the newsletter. Thank you for mentioning it.
Mark, are we seeing any kind of special behavior from the stock markets on almost the eve of the U.S. election?
Well, it's tricky here. We have a model, and it indicated, we'd have a bit of a top coming in toward the end of the third quarter, and we did, and pull back, and then another rally, and then perhaps down again, sort of choppy action here into the end of the year. So, the question is whether the rally is over and whether we can continue higher up toward the election and then see a bit of a correction. So I'm of the view, just looking at one of our models, is, we could see some nice volatility in both directions. There's a shot here that if today's lows, if it's, of course, more of a trading comment, since we had that big sell-off and we came back, if today's lows hold, we could see, an advance, perhaps another week or two into the election, and then from there, whoever gets in, a bit of a sell-off, I guess, as the news is behind the market. So we'll see if this is true, how high we would go first. But, the general comment I'd like to make is, we really don't know what 2021 is going to be like. It really is not a function of necessarily who gets into the White House, though I think a Biden victory would shake the market out a little bit temporarily. There's still going to be sectors that are going to perform well, others that are not. And we'll just have to make that decision at the time. I sort of had a feeling that the next couple of years may not be as good as the past 4 years if Trump is not in the White House. So time will tell if that's true or not. It might be more choppy. But, we're more traders, and we'll try to follow what's moving. In the last couple of weeks, we've seen precious metals gain some interest, the solar stocks in particular, some of the U.S.-based cannabis stocks showing some interest, infrastructure stocks like steel and concrete and so forth showing some interest, thinking there's going to be some infrastructure financing, I guess, regardless of who gets in. So the bank stocks have been relatively weak, I guess, in fear that if the Democrats came in, there might be more or some negative legislation against the banks and so forth. So, there's some signs of, where the money is speculating and flowing here. So I think it's going to be more of a function in the next year or two to find what's moving, what government support, where it's going to go. The oil industry, for example, is another example where there's been fear that if fracking is disallowed, what's that going to do to the price of oil and oil-related companies. So, again, a lot of these are going to be individual trades and sectors based on the news and I guess who's in the White House. So I think it should be an interesting time. And since we sort of focus on more specific sectors or trades, I think that's really what I should be, talking about, not where the Dow Jones is going to be or the S&P is going to be a year from now, which indeed still could be higher. If they pump enough money into the system, I guess that could still happen. But we try to focus more on what sectors and individual stocks are moving.
In the last recession, 2009, a lot of big industries and banks were bailed out. Is it still true a lot of companies are too big to allow to fail? And would it be better economically just to let them fail and let somebody else pick up the pieces and fly?
When the Democrats were in there and Obama was in there and we had the financial collapse, situation going on, and of course, I think it was more Pelosi. I think she was the Speaker of the House at the time. I think I may be incorrect on the Obama statement, but there was a lot of push to save the banks, no matter how bad it might be, because of the fear that not saving them might be a worse result. So I guess we could all say, gee, let them fail, and let's see what happens. And there's others that would say, gee, who wants to take the risk of that happening? The Federal Reserve is owned by the member banks. I mean, this is part of the original charter of the Federal Reserve. So, if people don't really understand this, if they go back and, read the history of the formation of the Federal Reserve, the famous book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, is about a 600-page book, documents a lot of the history of the formation of the Fed. So the banks are very much tied into the federal government, and the Fed itself is a federally chartered private corporation. It's not really the government itself that everybody thinks it is. So, more than likely, if the banks fail, they're going to bail them out again. And whether you can argue all day, whether that's the right thing or do or not. But we know the central banks have been in control of world economies for decades, and the banks are, part and parcel to that system. So, we like to see it all break up, and we all, have Bitcoin or gold or silver, or we create some new currency, and some other system evolves. But I don't know how soon all that's going to happen. So, but to answer your question is, my gut feeling, I'm not predicting a bank collapse. I know the debt in Europe is crazy, and there's a talk about some negatives unfolding next year because of that. But at the moment, I think they would probably still bail them out.
Well, I'm just wondering, would there be a general amnesty or forgiveness of debt? Because how did Germany, after World War II, its collapse, it had huge debts going into the war, and I'm sure it had huge ones coming out. Yet somehow Germany ends up the most powerful economic country in Europe and one of the most powerful on the planet. Japan had a pretty good run after the war as well. And even now, you would never call Japan a poor country. Don't they have something like the third best economy?
I guess being an enemy in a war and losing is the best result, right? I mean, that's really the result of that. So, I don't have much of a comment to make other than we follow the dollar, where the opportunity lies, and I guess rebuilding Japan and Germany, there was more money in doing that than going the other way. And we took a lot of the key Nazi scientists. I think it was called Operation Paperclip, that were taken out of Germany, given a free pass, and ended up building our space program here in the United States, with Werner von Braun being the head of it. So, where there's opportunity, where there's money to be made, I guess that's where the fortunes are going to go.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications, patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Mark, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, just commonly called the OECD, D is predicting most countries will have a tough time next year, but China will have 10% economic growth. Why does China get to grow when everybody else is declining?
Well, I think part of it is that they're very savvy, and they've taken their money and spent it wisely over the years. They've taken over Africa. We pretty much have heard that. So they invested in natural resources all over the world. Most of their success has been because of business from the West directed toward them. Very savvy. They're building their military up substantially, expanding their domain. We can talk about their economy suffering perhaps short term. I don't know if these statistics are right or not, but they're a world economy, and they're not only dependent on the U.S. and they're expanding around the world. And there've been a lot of predictions that this is going to be their century, and ultimately they will take over in terms of the East versus the West being the center, the money center, and the center of power. So we'll see if that prediction unfolds, but it seems to be that's the trend that has unfolded here. So the answer to your question is I just think they have invested wisely, and if we see a Democratic administration come in here following the election, they seem to be more pro-China, and that's going to be an aided boost to your comment if that unfolds. If Trump gets in, then it might be delayed a little bit, but they seem to be making great inroads and success, and in their technology. A lot of it, of course, it's claimed by many as plagiarized, taken, stolen, whatever. But it's been quite obvious if you visit China, and I've been there a couple times, and you see the infrastructure, everything is brand new, and clean and shiny, and you compare that to the infrastructure of the West, particularly in the United States. It's pretty clear who's leading the world in progress.
Yeah, I know. When I take a look at the New York subway, I'm amazed that it works at all.
Right.
it
I was
just looks
amazed
so ancient.
when I was there, and the airports, the streets, the skyscrapers. I mean, it's like a new country, a new place, and I think that attracts investment, it attracts interest and everything. Just like people like to be in new towns that have been built up. One of the reasons Arizona has been so successful because it's sort of a new city. It's clean. It's different than the Los Angeles or New York or Chicago environment, as an example. It attracts people looking for a cleaner, newer environment, and a lot of businesses have migrated here. And there's a comparison, I suppose, to China as well. Money and residents are looking for new and growing and exciting new places, and China is certainly one of them. So, and then again, China is still capitalistic. We know they're communists, but they're the biggest capitalists in the world. The billionaires there are not just a handful of people, and they realize that money has to be made and will be made, even though it's being controlled or partnered with some communists in certain instances. But it's still a capitalistic environment, and I guess if you partner with the right people there, you can make billions of dollars. So it's it's not like the old communist Soviet Union. There were some examples of that, but it's more dramatic here, where the country really wants to progress financially as well as militarily and technologically. So, very interesting situation. I'm pro-China in that sense, but I'm anti-China in terms of some of their conduct, but that may make no difference since they seem to be having the upper hand here.
Well, I can imagine in China they have their social value chart now. If you're caught jaywalking 3 times, you lose your right to travel or get a vacation.
Well, look what's happening here in the West. They're making us wear masks, and they're shutting down restaurants, and people are being arrested for not following the COVID guidelines, and there's talk about more restrictive covenants against people. It's a power grab, I think, here in the West. They want to control people more and more. Maybe they're emulating China. Maybe they want to be dictatorial here, and they like the fact there's a one-party government, and they can control people more and more and achieve their political and financial goals. I see what's happening here in the U.S. to a certain extent, you can compare it to China.
Yeah, well, I've never seen a government that's given up a tax once it started charging it, or given up a power once they've used it.
Right, so that's the problem. They've got it now, and maybe they got to spread another virus to regain their power grab here in the West. Who knows what's going on? I mean, the virus. We talked about this, we speculated about it, but I don't think the virus was any accident. It was a ploy to try to move toward a one world government, control population. Some say it has to do with the financial condition in Europe and the potential currency collapse or financial collapse. They need to get more people under control, and we can go on and on with theories, but I don't think it just happened by accident, and we'll find out one day what it's all about, I suppose. I have my own theories, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see what flies out of the Batcave.
Right, what's coming, yeah. Batman would be pleased.
We'll have more with Mark Leibovit right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Mark Leibovit. Mark, can you tell us a little bit about your trading philosophy and how you developed it?
I tend to be more technical, but over the years I've become cyclical as well. And we've talked about this on and off, but I try to combine sentiment readings, too much optimism and pessimism, with my technical volume analysis and regular technical analysis, and also throw that into the pot with cyclical analysis. So everything sort of fits together for us over time. We consider ourselves, myself in particular, a survivor. Having done this, my first interest in the market was the late 1960s, and got into it in the 70s when I became a floor trader on the Chicago Board Options Exchange. But I've noticed patterns in nature. We've talked about the cyclical patterns, the different times of the year, March, June, September, December, when we have the various equinoxes and solstices, how markets tend to change around those times. I look at the lunar cycles just as an example. We had a new moon coming in here today, and the market sort of changed direction. We watched this very short-term stuff like that. We talked about this last week. The famous analyst Ian McAvity from Toronto, the writer of a newsletter called Deliberations way back in the 1970s, influenced me when he broadcast his theory that gold and the full moon had some type of correlation. I found out over time that it could be any cycle of the moon, not necessarily a full moon, but that triggered my interest to check that one out. So I'm open to just about anything you can find a good correlation. So if you can get a seasonal pattern, lunar aspect, stock market sell-off or rally with the right technical ingredients all come together, you can make a deep prediction. And one of those that we made this year was in January. We predicted there would be a low in March, perhaps a big low. We didn't expect to see as much of the low that came in, and we were on record with that actually at the World Outlook Conference in Vancouver, where we actually made that prediction. And that same conference, by the way, I think it was on February 1st, I had predicted the potential of Tesla stock, TSLA, being as high as $2,000 to $3,000 a share when it was trading, I think, around $600-700 at the time. So, sometimes we make some pretty good calls out there, and we do our best to try to tie in all the various indicators and cycles and sentiment. And I love them. I love it when they kill stocks on bad news, because my experience over time has been these are setups for huge rallies. You can call it manipulation. You can call it what you want. But we've seen this over time in huge spikes to the upside, particularly on good news. There's a time to just do the opposite. You got to put all your pieces together, technically, but we've made some pretty good calls over the time, waiting and trying to be patient for these opportunities. So, long-winded response. We have a lot of pieces of the puzzle, Jim, that we look at when I look at the market. I want to see where we are in the time cycles, where we are in the charts, where we are in sentiment, where you are on the news environment, and try to make the best call you can. And, like I say, we're still doing it after all these years. So I think, I don't think we're necessarily going to be ranked the number one timer in 2020 as we were in 2019, but I think we're doing a pretty good job.
Mark, any sectors that have caught your eye that perhaps other people aren't paying attention to?
Oh, gee, that's interesting. I think I've already mentioned the sectors that I'm focusing in on, and I'm not going to make any claim that others are not paying attention to, but I think infrastructure plays are still going to be hot as money is going to be spent. Whoever gets into power here in the next few weeks, so that's going to help. We've already seen it in the action of copper and aluminum and steel and concrete, for example. I suppose solar will still be good, particularly if the Democrats get in, but there's been a trend towards solar anyway. As I mentioned earlier, the U.S. cannabis companies are making money pretty much hand over fist. Unfortunately, the Canadians weren't able to pull this off with some of the big names, but maybe they'll turn that around. So, these are some of the, off the top of my head, some of the sectors that we're watching. I think defense stocks are a little bit behind, too. We may see it get caught up in some of the defense names. We're watching those as well. So stay in touch. We got a lot of, and I'm sure other sectors are going to emerge, too. One of the things that got me into marijuana stocks in 2014 was huge volume coming into those stocks at a time when nobody really expected that to happen, and I was sort of on record for calling them the big bottom or a big trading opportunity, 6 years ago at a time when I was laughed at, frankly, thinking that it was just a crazy speculation. So who knows, we may see volume come into a sector that I'm not even expecting here in the next few days and weeks, and that could be the next big call for 2021. We'll just have to wait and see.
Mark, could you again remind people about your special offer?
Yeah, sure. At vrtrader.com, you go to the order page for whatever newsletter you like to sign up for, and in the promo code section, you get 50% off if you enter in lowercase letters 2020 half off 2020 HALFOFF, and any time frame you sign up for, you get that discount.
Mark, thank you so much for chatting with us.
My pleasure, Jim. Thank you for having me.
My guest has been Mark Leibovit, editor and publisher of the Leibovit VR newsletters, also known as vrtrader.com. If you have any questions for Mark or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet. We're also on Facebook. Our YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HouseStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HouseStreet.com radio is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.